That led him to consider calling his own attorney to get a second opinion. Might as well let the man do something, since everything else had fallen into place in the last week, and there were no more fires to put out. All of the permit issues had been resolved, the construction was finally starting, and Carter's presence in Montauk wasn't all that necessary. And while he was thankful how everything had worked out, it left him at odds with what to do with his time. There was no reason for him to take the extended break he had originally planned, but the idea of going back to work wasn't nearly as appealing as he thought it would be. He was enjoying the peace and quiet, and the slow pace of life. He had extended his lease on the house. Carter had taken to sitting on the beach with his tablet and reading in the mornings before going for a swim in the private pool the house boasted. Going into town each afternoon to shop for food had allowed him to experiment with some recipes, and he was feeling great, creative, happy, relaxed, and just when he'd decided to embrace this sudden vacation, all hell had broken loose in Manhattan. Not going to Emery wasn't an option. As soon as his mother described the way she had sounded on the phone, Carter had sprung into action. He'd analyzed his sudden protectiveness of her for the last hour of the drive and hadn't come up with any answers. Now he was here, sitting on the sofa, trying to wake her up. Not very hard, mind you, but still. Then she'd said his name in her sleep, a throaty purr that had him envisioning other ways to wake her up. Sexier ways. Unfortunately, he realized almost immediately how wrong that would be, and how this certainly wasn't the time for something like that. He remembered the horrified look on her face last week after he'd kissed her, and wasn't particularly anxious to see if that was a one-time reaction or not. Better to keep his distance and not find out. Still, the sound of her saying his name in her sleep was... Carter? Beside him, Emery was slowly coming awake. Her voice was sleepy and slightly confused, as if she wasn't sure she was really seeing him. "Hey," he said softly. "Sorry to wake you." Lazily, she sat up. The afghan that had been covering her dropped to her waist as she stretched and yawned before looking at him. "What are you doing here?" Okay, so her sleepy voice was an obvious turn-on. Carter scooted a little farther away from her and cleared his throat. I heard about what happened earlier." "You did?" Her brow furrowed with her question, and she looked completely adorable. "How?" "My mother called." "Oh." He knew immediately that she was embarrassed. Her head dropped forward, and he could see the flush to her cheeks. Without thinking, he reached out and tucked a finger under her chin and gently lifted her face so she was looking at him. "You okay?" For a moment, he thought she'd put on a brave face and tell him everything was fine. It was how things always seemed to be. Even when she was struggling with something, Emery never budged an inch, as if she thought showing that side of herself made her weak. He was prepared for it and was ready to tell her it was okay to be upset. Then she surprised him. Wordlessly, she shook her head and tears formed in her eyes. He cursed the bastard responsible for making one of the strongest women he'd ever known look this sad and defeated. So yeah, he reached out and pulled her into his arms and held her as she cried. For now, she needed this. Maybe she had cried earlier, maybe she hadn't, but right now she was, and he was going to let her do it. They sat like that for several long minutes, and when Carter felt her moving away, he pulled back and held his breath. "Thank you," she said quietly, wiping her face. Letting out a long breath, she studied him.